Welcome to the Sisters in Loss podcast, a faith-based podcast that spotlights Black women that replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. Black women experience miscarriage and stillbirth 4 to 5 times more likely than white women in the United States, according to the CDC and NIH. Whether you've experienced a miscarriage, infant loss, or stillbirth, are trying to conceive, or have an infertility diagnosis, you will learn about resources and strategies to heal, gain clarity, peace, and hope, and find an empowering path forward after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. Freeman, and you'll hear me interview other sisters in loss from around the world who have healed from such a painful and traumatic experience by sharing their testimonies and stories to inspire and help others turn their pain into their purpose. Storytelling is powerful. Storytelling is activism. Storytelling is healing. Now let's get started. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I would love to begin with you sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I'm 34. Well, I'm going to be 34 this year. I currently work with the school board with special needs students. I got married almost 2 years ago, and I am this girl who loves the gym and wellness. And at my big age, I went back to school for a third time. So I've gone to school for child and youth work, early childhood education, and then fitness and health. I really wanted to take hold of my health and not just thinking of the now, but down the line, and just making sure that I was healthy and, making sure my family and friends were healthy. And that's pretty much been me, just keeping it low key, love my family, working out, and that's really it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I would love, but you have a story to tell, obviously. So I would love for you to take us on your motherhood journey.
Yes. So prior to me getting married, I was on birth control for, I'm going to say maybe like 15 years or so. And I know with being on birth control, everyone's like, oh, yeah, this can happen and that can happen. And when you do start trying, it's going to take forever for you to get pregnant. I came off birth control in, I'm going to say September. I got married in October. And what was it? It was New Year's Eve. And I found out I was pregnant. I was like, oh, well, that was quick. That not even planned, it just happened. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is great. Then fast forward, I'm going to say a week shy of 3 months. I had just told my family on family day. And after the whole celebration and, announcing it to just a smaller section of my family, maybe a couple hours later, I went home and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm bleeding. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I know these things kind of happen. What's going on? So my husband calls my sister, all panicked, and she's like, go to the hospital right now. My niece, who works at the hospital, luckily she was there and kind of able to fast track things. And I get there and they're pretty much like, we don't hear a heartbeat. So I was like, okay. I mean, you guys say one thing, God says another thing. So it is what it is. And I'm just going to play it cool. And then it was the longer that I was there, they did more than one ultrasound and was just pretty much like, unfortunately, you are experiencing a miscarriage. And the crazy thing is, while sitting in that little room, it's my husband and I and the doctor, I heard nothing. It was literally like if you've ever watched Charlie Brown with that teacher just kind of like wop wop wop, that's pretty much what I heard. Until she left the room and closed the door, it was like I came back into that moment and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And sorry, prior to that, all the doctor said to me is just go home, it'll pass. That was it. So that's it. So I'm like, okay, here's your doctor's notes, here's a little like pamphlet for support. I go home, that was the Monday. By the Wednesday, I had my mom staying with me and another one of my nieces, and I started experiencing the worst pain I have ever felt. It was just like cramping. And I was like, what is this pain that I'm feeling? So my mom just kind of like, okay, go take a shower, do this, relax. And as the night went on, that pain was so unbearable. I couldn't walk, I couldn't sit, I was on the floor, I couldn't do anything. And at the time, my husband, who is a basketball coach, travels a lot to and from the States. So he wasn't around then. So he's checking in every 2 seconds, and we're like, okay, we got to get her to the hospital. So they call the ambulance. I go and they're like, "Oh, you're basically in labor. This is what it feels like." And I was like, what? And it was a male paramedic and a female. And the female had said to me, she experienced a loss. And she's like, do you know, like, basically how to push? And I was like, push what? And she's like, you kind of have to push it out. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what that is. So she's like, it's fine. Then they started counting what were contractions for me. And I was just like, I would never wish this on my worst enemy. Get to the hospital. It is so busy. I am sitting in a wheelchair in the waiting room, just waiting for a room. And my niece is trying to fast track things, but it's so busy, nothing else she could do. So I'm sitting there just crying, and my mom is like crying and trying to comfort me. And I was like, I need to go to the washroom. And then I pretty much go to the washroom, and I was like, I don't know if something's gonna come out, like if I'm gonna throw up or I'm gonna pass them through the other end. And as I go to use the washroom, literally as soon as I sit down, everything passes. And it was like in that moment, that relief that was felt, I was like, wow. And we were like, what do we do? What do we do with this? And I'm gonna call it my little baby. I know some people choose not to say it's a baby, it's a thing, but it's my child. And in that moment, we kind of just wrapped it up and then like tossed it because we're like, we don't know what to do. Like, what is it? This was actually before I knew what it was. And I finally get to a room and they give me like drugs to kind of just ease the pain and all that. And then they're like, okay, well, what did you do with it? And then we're like, oh, we put it in the garbage. So pretty much they made us go back and get it because they have to do like testing on it. So we go back and get it. And in that very moment, I'm just like, I can't believe that one moment I'm sharing this news and now I'm here. So after that, it was just like, what do I do now? What happens next? So they send me home and I have to go back just to make sure that everything is out and all that stuff. Within like, I think it was like 4 days or so, I had to go back to the hospital. And within those 4 days, I went back home. My husband came, I think it was the following day, and all I could do was just sob and sob for like the next, I don't even know how long it was, but that amount of pain, I don't even think anyone could understand it unless you've experienced a loss. It's like someone takes your heart out and like puts it back in, but like stop. It is the craziest thing, and no amount of "I'm sorry for your loss" or like "Do you need anything? I'm here for you" could give you any type of comfort. And so after that, it was a whole lot of, "God, why did you do this? God, like, why would this happen? Like, I told my family, then this." And to be honest, after that, I was like, yeah, I can't pray. I can't do this. Like, that's it. And in that moment, I was like, yeah, that's it for me. I'm just here. I'm not working out. I'm not doing anything. I'm literally going to stay in bed. And it took me, I want to say, maybe 2 months or so before one day I was going to work. And while I was driving to work, I was driving through like this, it was like a scenic route to work. And I turned on the radio, and it just so happened that a gospel song started playing. And out of nowhere, I started just crying. And it was like this voice inside of me said, "You're okay. But now, like, enough is enough. You got to pick yourself up." And I kid you not, within that little moment, it was like the sense of calm just came over me. And I said, "God, forgive me for the moments in which I was so upset at you. But I know that voice was you." And after that, I was like, okay, there's two things that are going to happen. I'm going to stay down in this slump, or I'm going to take this moment, and I'm going to try and heal myself. I got to keep going. And that's exactly what I did. I got back into my faith even more, like a lot closer. And I was just like, just wow. Because it's like you spend so much time in that state of, "I'm so mad, I'm so angry. Why does everyone else have this? Why not me?" That like it just kind of seemed like the days are just going so slow. And then in that moment of stillness and hearing God's voice, it seems like the days just get a lot easier. And that was my first loss.
Wow. I think hearing you speak about it just puts language back into what it means to wrestle with your faith after going through such a profound loss, and then trying to find your way back to God and how God shows up for us in different ways during this journey to getting back. um, and then I think the other part that I took away from you sharing about this first loss, because obviously, you've had more to your journey, is how grounded you are in knowing that, you know, although I don't feel your presence, although I may not be able to pray, I know that you're still here and you're still
Right.
grounded in that. And I think that that is so important on our journey, is that we know that God is still here, even though we may not be getting what we want at the time, because
Right.
we know what we want.
Right.
We know what we want God to bless.
Exactly.
But, in many cases, I think about it as like, okay, you know, n- um not necessarily this is what we are meant to go through, because I don't necessarily think that. I think more so that God is taking us on on this journey to strengthen our faith. And
Mhm.
as much as we don't like to hear that, it takes some adversity, it takes some trauma, it takes losing a baby and how painful that is for us to recognize God's voice
Yeah.
in our lives, but also recognize that this is a part of walking out the faith and literally putting one foot in front of the other and taking that steps and doing the work, because God is not going to bless it unless we are actually working on it and actually doing it. So I would love for you to talk a lot about how you've navigated through not only this loss, but your other losses that you've had, and you've come back to like the center of your faith journey and your faith walk.
Ooh. So there was one thing that I kind of missed in the first loss. Um, Prior to that, I'm gonna say, I think that was maybe like 2 years ago, my grandmother passed. And oh, I'm gonna get emotional. Oh, my grandmother passed. And after my loss, when I had gone back to work, nobody there had like knew that I lost someone. And this an older lady, she was like, "Oh, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, like I'm fine," when I really wasn't fine. And she pulled me to the side and she said to me, "Are you sure you're okay?" And she just kind of stared at me. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I was just off. I wasn't feeling well." And she just kind of stared at me with like this really weird look. And then I said to her, "You know what? Something is telling me to tell you this because I feel like I can trust you." And literally before I can open my mouth, she was like, "I'm so sorry." And so I was looking at her like, what are you sorry about?" I didn't tell you anything. What's going on?" And so she hugs me. And as she hugs me, I could hear her just like crying. And then I started crying and she's like, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And I said, how did you know that?" She's like, "Believe it or not," she's like, "I'm a very intuitive person." And she's like, "These are things that I know." She's like, "Call it a gift," but she's like, "These are things that I know." And I said, "Well, you're correct." She then said to me, "Did you lose a grandmother recently?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And she's like, "Well, that loss that you had needed to be with your grandmother. And your grandmother is taking care of your child, and it's going to be okay." And I said, "Oh my goodness." And that was also another moment where I was like, "Okay, I'm okay," cuz my grandmother meant the world to me. So that was another thing. And then with all my other losses, a lot of people in my family don't know. It's just recently I experienced another health scare in which I kind of had to kind of tell people about, that I did have three more losses. And when I tell you, after kind of going through, almost three months where you're showing and all this, to, okay, God, you know what? You gave me another chance. I love this. This is great. After the second one, I felt so much guilt because I wasn't excited. And I was like, yeah, okay, we're going to see what happens. And that one lasted, I think it was like 2 weeks. And every single one of those, I was probably within like 3 months or so. They're like 3 to 4 months apart, all of last year. And they each were about like a week long or 2 weeks long. And I was like, "God, what's going on here? What's going on?" And I was like, "You know what? It is what it is. I'm mad, but God, I know you're doing something and I can't question you as to what you're doing." But it was the last one that I had in which I was, because at first I was like, "I don't want to try. I'm just gonna be the fun auntie." And that, that's what it is. Like, I don't think I'm gonna have kids. If I do, let's adopt, let's this. And I finally like came to terms with everything and went back to therapy. And I was like, okay, when I did find out, I'm so excited. This is great. We're gonna hold off on telling people though until we're a little further past the first trimester. And then that one was taken from me. And I was like, Lord, I know they say, what's the saying? You give your toughest battles to your strongest soldiers, but I am just drowning here. What am I doing wrong? Is there a sign? Am I just not meant to be a mom? Like my friends are having babies, other people. And then it became this a little bit of jealousy. Where like, I would love for it to be me. Like, what's wrong with me? And through there, my faith wavered yet again. And then I was also so mad at myself because I know better than to question God. But it's like, how can I not? But the one thing I did differently throughout the times is I never stopped praying. And through it all, I was like, God, my faith is wavering. God, forgive me for questioning you, but I just don't understand. And surprisingly, compared to the first time, I still had that sense of peace that like I'm still gonna go to church. I'm still, it's gonna happen when it's supposed to happen. Maybe it's for the greater good. Right now, I don't understand it, but down the line, it'll all make sense. And I started like fertility treatments again, and that didn't work. So here we are yet again. And right now, I'm just waiting until God says, you know what? It's your time now. Whatever I needed to go through or whatever needed to happen first, you're now ready.
So, how has it been going through even fertility treatments? Because that still is impactful to not only the emotional, mental health and strain, but like your body physically to go through that and not have success. Have they formally diagnosed you with anything, or how has that process been going?
So the first time when I first went, they just did all these tests to make sure, I guess, that I didn't have like lupus or like sickle cell and like making sure I'm ovulating and just very invasive. So they didn't actually do anything. They were just more so, I guess they call it just kind of like a checkup, an assessment or whatever they want to call it. And through that, I was like, okay, like fine. But the last time I was put on medication and I put on medication and I had to take a shot and there was nothing. They're like, you're good to go. The only thing they did say though is that they realized that my eggs were producing slower or I didn't have enough egg reserve. So if I did want to try, I need to speed up the process. They also had my husband tested as well, and he was fine. So they're like, okay, well, the issue is not getting me pregnant, the issue is staying pregnant. But this is where I'm now questioning. Um, so I want to say maybe 2 weeks after the shot that I had taken and starting the drugs, I actually had a stroke recently. Like I'm gonna say 3 weeks ago. So when going to my doctor, who kind of like, looked up everything and looked up the shot, she was saying that whatever shot I took, it could cause strokes, but she's not sure. And she's like, well, did they tell you that, this could happen? I was like, no, they did not.
Mhm.
So now I'm like, okay, did I just kind of get myself into something that maybe I shouldn't have? And now it's like, okay, when I am ready to do all these things, I think I may have to leave that step out and just leave it to God to say, God, whatever it is for me, this is just what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. I also recently, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Especially like you just said, you are young, you're vibrant. It only directs you back to that particular hormonal treatment, what was happening to you. I have also another close friend who also is in a very similar situation where she has low egg reserve as well. She also went through the fertility treatments, got did all the medication to hyper stimulate her eggs essentially. And she ended up going into like an anaphylactic shock and ended up getting you know, literally went into shock. So she has to go around with an EpiPen now, and she's allergic to a million things, which she was not allergic to prior to going through fertility treatment. So we don't know all the side effects of how those treatments impact our bodies. And, you know, for both of you, both are catastrophic and could have both been deathly for both of you all. So, how have you been coping with that? Because that also is a grieving, because it's like, you know, Lord, like I'm doing all the things. I eat well, I work out, I'm healthy. Like, God, He's good, you know, because that is a thing too, where, you know, something may be wrong with your body, something may be wrong with your partners. So it's all, you know, it's kind of all working against each other. So it's like, okay, now it's my body, it's not His. And then now I'm having all these other health challenges. Like, how are you coping? How are you navigating? How are you grieving and trying to heal that part?
Oh, I mean, while, being in the hospital and having like family support and all that, I think I cried because like family has cried. And I was literally just saying to my family, I love you guys, but like you guys have just been all in my business. I have not had a moment to just kind of sit to myself and process what has really been going on. I don't think I've cried in terms of like all of that. It's just more of I sit and sometimes I'm spaced out a lot. And I'm just like my mind is just going and going and I'm just kind of like, Lord, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to continue to read my Bible and talk to you and, go to church because I really don't understand it. So it's been really really hard. It's just like one thing after another. And what I know sometimes it's easier for us to blame like the next best thing as to why certain things happen, but in the same breath, I feel like we need to listen to our bodies. When God says you need to slow down, we need to slow down. And I know that I had like a lot of things going on and clearly I wasn't listening to the signs of take a rest. So unfortunately, when we don't take a rest, there's a lot God will place something tragic unfortunately to really like sit us down. Sit us down, take a moment, regroup. And I just have to remind myself God's in control. I'm alive. I'm here. A lot of other things could have went wrong, but what doctors say and this person says, God has the final say. So I really, really and truly know that a lot of things are going to make sense down the line. And I just really have to keep my faith or I'm just going to lose my mind. That's pretty much it.
No, absolutely. I think that is so important to navigating grieving and healing and coping when things happen. Because I always feel like it is a journey and it's not easy. Some days are better than others. And it's almost like, look, I got out of bed this morning. I put on clothes. I showered.
Mhm.
Thank you, Jesus.
Amen.
And that's all I accomplished for today. And that's fine. And then there's like other days, we do all the things. But something I definitely really want to highlight that you said is that we really need to listen to our bodies and not feel like we can't trust ourselves and trust our bodies, especially if we feel pain or moments of discomfort, or if our doctors and providers aren't listening to us, that we have the ability to advocate for ourselves in those moments, in those situations. The other thing is that you are now forced to sit still, and Black women don't know how to sit still.
Mhm.
Black women, I'm raising my hand, and Erica does not know how to sit still. So how are you navigating these moments? Obviously, as you process this trauma that you've experienced, but like, how are you learning how to just sit with yourself and um, really reflect on this journey?
So in this really sit down moment, not do I can't drive for 30 days. I can't work out until the doctor says so. I'm legit just sitting. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take a course. I'm I'm gonna pick up a hobby. I'm oh, there's a little cleaning here. Let me do that. And it's everyone's like, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm just like, mental or like some days mentally, I'm like, I feel great. Physically, I feel amazing. I want to do this, that, and the third. But I know that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. So I do a lot of like meditation. I do a lot of like, I sit with myself because I'm the type of person I don't like to, with my emotions and stuff, it just gets too much. But I'm forced to sit in those emotions and think about it and process them. And even now, with saying to people, I'm not okay versus, yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine. Like something as little as that, and, really telling people, I don't like all of you guys doing all these things for me because I'm an independent woman and I can do it myself. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate, you guys reminding me that like I'm not a burden, that I'm loved. Like even in the moments where I'm like, oh my God, they must hate me to have to drive me around or like all these things, or like I'm so annoying. It's that like constant reflection of your family's truly amazing. Your family's there to support you. So a lot of things that I did take for granted because it was just go, go, go. I'm forced to be like, God, thank you for my husband. Thank you for my family. So I'm just, you know what? I'm grateful. I'm definitely grateful. And to be honest, because I'm forced to sit, I am just milking it. I'm milking all the extra like love they give me. Granted, they give me that anyways, but it's just really a lot of reflection, a lot of time with myself and the self-care. Like, okay, I'm gonna put on a face mask today, or like I'm gonna take like a nice bubble bath. It's those things that like I'm really focused on. Mhm.
I love that. I love that you are literally forced to sit with yourself and ask for help, which is very hard for us to do as well. So I'm so happy that you're doing that and you are taking this time for yourself. So I would love for you to leave our listeners with encouraging words as people are navigating their own journey to motherhood, experience loss, or going through fertility challenges. What encouraging words can you leave with our listeners?
I just want to tell everyone that in this process of like, the fertility journey, we're so like in this, oh my God, time is ticking. We got to hurry up. Our friends are doing it. This person's doing it. There's really no such thing. I'm going to be 34 and now I'm like, who said that you have to have a child at 30 or 34. When you're good and ready and you feel that you're wherever you want to be, then by all means. And also in the process of doing treatments and all that, it is okay to say, you know what, right now I need time. I need time to heal my mind, time to heal my body. I need to put a pause on this. And it's really just tapping into like other women, because there's so many other women that are going through the same thing. And I don't feel like this is talked about enough. So it's like reaching out to people, asking for that support and sharing your story. I know like sometimes it's a little like, I feel ashamed. I don't want people to know. We're human. It is something that is happening. Tell your story, share your story, educate people. And through it all, we have to love ourselves first. So that's all I have to say. Love yourself, hug on yourself, give yourself affirmations, and we're all going to get through this together.
Amen. Where can we connect with you after this episode?
So my Instagram is Kimora, so KIIMORAA_. And I'll love to chat with any and everybody. And I really love your community and what you do for women. And it is amazing. So I would love to connect with anyone who wants to just chat.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And she has reminded me that I need to sit and rest and really allow God to do his work, his handiwork, because we don't have, I always do recognize that moments like this require us to do so, but we don't always take the time to do so. So now this is your time. And for those of you who are listening, we're ending up the first quarter of 2025, and it's been crazy in the zeitgeist of all the craziness going on. This is time for us to sit and really plot and plan, not only professionally, goal-oriented stuff, but really, how is God going to move in your life this year? Not just with family planning, but this is our time for that. And I just wanted to share that at the end of the episode, because that you reminded me of that. We don't do that enough as Black women. So thank you so much for sharing your story and a part of your journey. And we're going to follow and know that God is going to bless you on the other side.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, I got you. Thank you for listening to today's episode. For show notes, go to sistersinloss.com to stay connected with us and join the Sisters in Loss community and receive my weekly newsletter. Please go to sistersinloss.com/newsletter. That is sistersinloss.com/newsletter. Please rate and